So, okay, good day. So I am Professor Erwin Globio, and I'm going to discuss today regarding how we're going to write your statement of the problem. So, but before that, so let me invite you to like and subscribe my YouTube channel, and also please hit the bell button for you to be notified of the newly uploaded videos here in YouTube regarding thesis, dissertation, and research writing. So, okay. So let's start with what we call the statement of the problem. So most of the thesis, it's one of the most important part in your thesis or in your dissertation. So it says that the problem statement is among the most critical parts of the research proposal or thesis because it provides focus and direction for the remainder of the study. A well-written problem statement defines the problem and helps identify the variables that will be investigated in the study. So basically, in your thesis or let's say in your dissertation, the direction of your study lies on your statement of the problem. So meaning, once you define your statement of the problem, it will tell you what particular methodology that you're going to use, and then also what particular instrument that you're going to use to gather the data. And also later on, you're going to be used that in terms of your results in your discussion and also with the conclusion. Okay, so generally, okay, so there are no one correct or best way to write the problem statement. So of course, there are several ways. There are thesis or dissertation that normally writes their statement of the problem based in narrative form. Like for instance, they will describe the statement of the problem in terms of paragraphs, describing the existence of the problem, etc. Okay, so and then afterwards, there are other statement of the problems that normally they will something like define their statement of the problem based on general and specific problems. Okay, so however, the following examples illustrate the commonly used formats that are acceptable. So basically, statement of the problems are in a particular study normally will compare, contrast, investigate, describe, determine, examine, develop, clarify, or evaluate the issues being studied. So let's say for example, you are creating your master's thesis. So basically, in some point of your study or in writing your research problem, normally you might compare. Like for example, comparison of one variable to other variable, and also making a contrast. Making something like what is the difference between these two different variables or these two variables. So investigate, describe, determine, examine, develop, clarify, or evaluate. Okay. Also, the study is designed to investigate the concerns and barriers of implementing online learning at the university. Okay. So let's say for example, your research problem lies on the implementation of the online learning within your university. So of course, you might something like compare with other schools or something like compare with other countries. Yeah? So, or something like contrast it with the existing forms of learning. Okay? So you could do also investigation, you could do also description, etc. Okay? So that's something like how are you going to develop your research problem. So of course, I know that developing a thesis is not an easy task. So basically, most of us, yeah, so if we something like want to finish our studies both in baccalaureate and masters or in doctorate degree, diba? So normally, diba, so we need to develop a thesis or a dissertation. So of course, it's not easy. So wala namang madali sa buhay, sabi nga. Yeah? So try mong bilangin yung buhok mo. Ay, madali daw kumain. O sige nga, try mong kumain ng 24 hours na walang tigil. Mahirap din, di ba? So, madaling matulog. O, try mong matulog ng mga 5 days. Ya? So, ewan ko lang kung magising ka pa. Ya? So, madali daw maligo. Maligo ka gamit ang bote ng Yakult. Okay? So, wala madali. Lahat pinaghirapan natin. Ya? So yan. Okay. So, let's move on to the research questions. Okay? So, normally, in some of the format, so from other universities, they something like define it as a research question. So, in thesis writing, the statement of the problem is further clarified through the research questions. So, basically, you're going to something like use, so mga something like question form, so of sentences, so asking questions, so related to your studies or to your study, I mean. So the researcher may cite some assumptions or a particular assumption to explain the research problem. So the problem statement is operationalized or shown how it works by identifying the specific variables and their relationships that will be examined. Okay? So, and responded on it on the other chapter, which is on findings. So, basically, as I said earlier, the definition of your statement of the problem, or something like the purpose of your statement of the problem, that would be the direction of your study. So, meaning, later on, in your findings, in your results, so you're going to answer those questions that you have set in your statement of the problem. So, of course, that is based on your data gathering. Okay, so maybe you could use qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method research. So, it depends on your research problem, okay, or on your research questions. Okay, so as I said also, so that statement of the problem will also determine what particular methodology that you could use. Okay, so the research questions also suggest methodology, as I said. So for the study and serve as a basis for drawing conclusions in chapter 5. So basically, your research problem, it's something like, as I said, in your findings or in your results of your study, you're going to answer all of those research questions. So, and also, of course, if you're going to conclude, so in your conclusion, the part of your study, so normally, you're going to answer, or you're going to something like the basis, so for your conclusion, so it's will be based on your research questions or your research problems. Okay, so let's say so for non-experimental research or descriptive social research type, in framing research questions, students are advised to avoid, whenever possible, the use of yes or no question. So of course, we something in research problems, we normally avoid dichotomy, so or something like a question or dichotomous questions. So normally, a question that is being answered by yes or no. Okay, so since this tend so to limit the scope of responses, questions of this kind should be rewarded. Okay, so let's give an example so of that particular research problem. So let's say, so the question is, do the members of the university faculty agree on the causes of student successes in distance learning courses? Okay, so that should be avoided, that question. Why? It's because it can be answered by a yes or no. Okay, so, and it should not be, it's not acceptable, so research problem. Okay, so in framing your research problem, the questions must be not answerable by a yes or no. Okay, so it should be rewarded. Okay, so like for instance, so the question before, we're going to reward it, so we're going to rephrase it, so it is something like, the question is like this, so to what extent do the faculty members of the university agree on student successes in distance learning courses? So meaning, that particular question, we are asking of the extent. So meaning, it's not answerable by a yes or no. So if someone asks you that question, so to what extent, you cannot just answer yes or no. Okay? So you need some explanation, or you need some clarification, so an elaboration before you could be able to answer that particular question. So that is what we call so acceptable research problem that we could do in our thesis or in our dissertation. If ever, so later on, so we will be something like making our thesis or making our dissertation, of course. So we need to do a manuscript. So, and something like the research problems are one of the parts of that manuscript. Okay, so those are some of the guidelines. So that's you could follow in terms of creating your research problems or statement of the problem in your thesis or in your dissertation or in your research. Okay, so that's all for today for regarding our discussion of the statement of the problem or guidelines in making your statement of the problem. So of course, please like and subscribe on my YouTube channel, and please hit the bell button for you to be notified of the newly uploaded videos here on YouTube regarding thesis, research, and dissertation writing. So once again, thank you for your time.